Hello everyone, Grimmm Reviews here, and today I would like to share my current thoughts on Blokees Transformers. So for those who do not know, Blokees or Blokees is a toy company stationed in China that specializes in producing various model kits from a variety of IPs. These IPs include movie series like Jurassic Park, characters like Hatsune Miku, and even shows like Sesame Street. These model kits have begun to grow in popularity, with me myself personally falling in love with the Transformers series of Blokees. So when I first saw these things, I was super hesitant about buying one. I was making my way through some random convention when I stumbled upon a table that was selling a bunch of these Galaxy version 2 SOS boxes. I eyeballed them for a moment and asked the vendor for some more information, and eventually I just decided to pick one up and take a look at it. It looked interesting enough, and I was really eyeballing the Chase variant Grimlock that was featured on the box, so I bought it. Of course, I wasn't lucky enough to get Grimlock, but what I did get was a cool little Mixmaster figure. It wasn't a bot I really wanted, but regardless, I had a lot of fun building the little thing. It was straightforward and simplistic, and yeah, I needed more instantly. I decided to check out my local Walmart a week or so later, and lo and behold, there was a box of Transformer 1 kits on the shelf. I ended up scooping up a couple of the boxes and ended up taking them back home with me, but yeah, by then I kind of had a plan. You see, after picking up the first Blokey, the Mixmaster one, it kind of gave me an idea. I ended up grabbing a couple Transformer figures that I was planning on selling, which they ended up not selling, but anyway, and I set up a little work area. I set up a background and my phone and jotted down some notes on a piece of paper, and those became my first few videos. From there, I decided to buckle down and make even more videos. And that's where building bots and talking thoughts came in. It gave me an excuse to purchase a bunch of these boxes, and it allowed me to just try something new. And I had a lot of fun with the series. Most of these blind box Blokees all build roughly the same, with maybe one or two variations, making each build familiar but fun. With these Transformer 1 boxes, I ended up pulling quite a few of the characters I wanted. D16 and Optimus Prime, I am especially happy I pulled. I really didn't have a lot of interest in picking up the Studio Series versions of these guys, so owning these two kind of scratched that itch for representation. Then of course I pulled a few others that I really can't complain about either. With the Transformers 1 line being kind of underwhelming, there seemed to be a lot of missing representation that these Blokees kind of helped fill. Getting these cogless versions of characters from the film was something that was neat to see, and it allowed people to get some background characters that they may be fans of but lack representation elsewhere. Death Tracker especially was a very cool figure to pull. I really did love the design of these guys, and if there was any duplicate that I wouldn't mind pulling at all, it would be a duplicate Death Tracker. If I was younger, I probably would have tried an army build with this thing. Overall, these Transformer 1 blind boxes were an absolute joy to build, and I really do love how the final product looks. I still have these guys mostly displayed, and Blokees, Optimus, and D16 are carrying my TF1 display hard. But of course, there does come a little issue when you buy too many of these blind boxes. Duplicates. There is something very annoying about setting up for a video with a blind box, expecting the odds to be in your favor, then dumping out a character that you have already done a video on. This happened to me quite early actually, when I pulled a second D16 from a Transformers 1 box I found. I didn't really know what to do with it. I guess I could have sold it online, but I thought that would be a pretty big hassle, so I ended up just, well, upgrading Mixmaster. Yeah, I kind of thought it would be funny if over time this character who I've continued to use in video slowly just changed more and more over time, and that's what happened. I replaced his legs and shoulders for a while, then after pulling a duplicate Shattered Glass Ratchet, I replaced even more parts. So as of right now, this is what this guy looks like. This kind of customization really did make the misfortune of pulling a duplicate model kit a bit easier to bear. But a slight problem occurred when trying to film another one of these building bot videos. A few weeks ago, I ended up buying a couple of these Galaxy version parallel universe boxes because thankfully my Walmart ended up getting these in. And while I was able to make a video on Swoop, Swoop's alt mode was just too short of a build and too similar to make a video on. The shattered glass ratchet audio was a disaster, and I just didn't have enough to say. And then while sitting down to make a new video, I ended up pulling yet another 2 duplicates, which unfortunately I can't do anything with. I already have parts of Ratchet on this guy, and I already have built Swoop's Dino mode, and none of those parts can be used for him. So what went from 4 possible videos immediately went to 0 possible videos. I haven't even bothered opening these packs. Right now they're just sitting in Ziplocs till I can sell them, I guess. So with these things being scarce as is around where I live, and with me still wanting to make a video Blokey related, I decided to make this instead. So while not a full review, let's take a closer look at some of these figures. Starting off, here we have Mixmaster from Transformers Galaxy Version 2 SOS. This little guy, as mentioned, was my first exposure with the Blokees brand, and overall does a great job at representing Mixmaster. Sporting this mouthless face sculpt and this nice Constructicon green and purple color scheme, overall making for a cute little iteration of the character. Moving on, we have the crew from Galaxy Version 5-1. Starting off with D16, we see that he does a pretty great job at adapting D16's model from the movie into model kit form, something that a lot of these figures are great at. This guy sports his iconic bucket helmet with these piercing yellow eyes, as well as this honkin' fusion cannon and tiny gun arm. Aside from this, D16 also has his Megatronus sticker on his left pauldron, as well as the etched carving on his chest. 2 references from the movie that I'm really glad are included on this guy. Prime also knocks it out of the park with this amazing head sculpt and overall presence. I am loving the Matrix sticker on the chest, as well as these silver forearm and thigh pieces. This optional translucent blue axe is also an amazing accessory to add, and even has articulation around the wrist, allowing for a decent range of motion. These 2 together look absolutely amazing in my eyes, and it really does make me happy that I bought this specific series. This line also gives us some cogless versions of Transformers 1 characters like B-127 and Ironhide. The bot futurely known as Bumblebee is looking positively adorable with this grinning face and sky blue eyes. And Ironhide is looking nice and chunky and sports this pretty nice maroon color scheme. It's really neat that they included some of the background bots in these boxes. And Death Tracker, of course, is over here looking sleek with this dark navy blue color scheme and this amazingly silver face mask. I don't care if these guys are just background fodder, they are some nice looking background fodder. Galaxy Version 6 Parallel Universe introduces some IDW and Shattered Glass representations such as Shattered Glass Ratchet. Now, I know close to nothing about Shattered Glass, other than the roles of characters are kind of switched, and that Shattered Glass Thundercracker has the best color scheme of all time. But it is neat to own this little guy. Despite not knowing his lore, I am loving the white and purple color scheme with these turquoise forearms and thighs, and I am loving the mean mug. But of course we do still get some classic representation thrown into the mix. Take for example Swoop and Swoop. These 2 are definitely some of my favorite Blokey figures so far. Swoop's robot mode has a lot of these great details, as well as these adjustable wings, making for a very fun figure to pose. His alt mode figure is also great, with this translucent orange fire piece that can tab into his mouth, or can be held as a sword by his robot self. This Dino mode also comes with a flight stand, allowing you to actually get him into some poses. Overall, I am loving my experience with Blokey so far. And with these kits being as cheap as they are, with these costing me about $6 to $10 depending on where I got them from, I find that there is genuinely a lot of value to be had with these things. On top of that, they are super posable. You can really get some fun and unique poses with these things, to the point where they kinda make for great stop motion puppets. I guess my only real issue right now is that it feels really hard to buy these things. Now, like, full disclosure, I do kind of live in the middle of nowhere, but these things are just never stocked in any store I go to really anywhere. It's a real shame because I would love to buy way more. But as it stands, there is just not enough stock out there yet. As of writing this, there are more and more waves of these things coming out with even larger projects being available, and I am just unable to find them anywhere. I could buy them online, I could and probably should, But to be honest, I feel like that detracts from the fun of these kinds of toys and model kits. If I buy a blind box, ideally I would just like to pick it up while I'm already out and about. I don't want to have to order and wait for something like this to be delivered for it to just be a duplicate or damaged or something. And I don't really want to buy the entire case of these things because I don't want the entire set. I just want a few usually. I have no need for the entire wave of these things, because the joy I get from these is the chance aspect. I like being surprised by who I get in these things, and I feel like if I buy an entire case, a lot of that joy would just get sucked away. So to kind of wrap things up here, I really do like what Blokees has going on so far, and I really am interested to see how they continue to grow and what all they decide to do with their licenses. But until more stores get these in, I'm just kind of stuck picking up whatever I can find whenever I can find it. So yeah, if you were on the fence about picking up a Blokees model kit, I would say pick one up for yourself. Even if you have never built a model kit before, you might just like it. But hey, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. This has been Grimmm Reviews. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.